everybody, welcome back to story time. Today we're going to read The Bean Machine. Can you spot my beans? Beans, beans are the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. But here's a tale of a boy named Jack who munched on beans with every snack. In tomato sauce so thick and sweet, these orange things were his favourite treat. So here it is in all its glory, an alternative Jack and the Bean story. This is Jack and he eats beans for breakfast, lunch and dinner. If munching beans became a sport, he'd definitely be the winner. By day, by night in candlelight, he'd devour them with a guzzle. Jack even had his favourite beans on a jigsaw puzzle. He ate beans on toast, he loved the most, and beans on peeled bananas. Beans while watching television, sat in his pyjamas. And when Jack reached the bottom of his little baked bean tin, he'd simply ask for more beans, please, and wipe sauce off his chin. Jack's mum and dad took it in turns and came up with a plan to heat beans in the microwave and warm them in a pan. Jack liked them hot for breakfast and cold by afternoon. He'd eat them from the fridge at night with his favourite spoon. But soon there was a problem, an issue with Jack's snack. A tower of tins had filled the bins and soon began to stack. The trash was overflowing and bags were piling high. The kitchen was an utter mess and Mum began to cry. Meanwhile, Jack ate beans with noodles, apple strudels, beans in bowl of stew, beans on ham and stirred in jam, and even on the loo. And when Jack reached the bottom of his little baked bean tin, he'd simply say, "I'd like some more," and wipe sauce off his chin. To get rid of the rubbish, Dad hired a massive van and drove to the recycling centre to get rid of our cans. But back at home, Jack's love for beans just didn't look like stopping, and as he made more piles of tins, Mum just kept on shopping. Jack ate beans on cake and in milkshake, and beans on ravioli, on lemon drops and lollipops, and beans on macaroni. And when Jack reached the bottom of his little baked bean tin, he'd smile and say, "Got any more?" and wipe sauce off his chin. Skips at the recycling centre were full and piled up high, and a pyramid of bean cans was stacked up to the sky. At home in Jack's back garden, a metal mountain grew, while Mum and Dad just panicked and didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, beans were warmed in pots and pans that Dad was quickly heating. Mum zapped beans in microwaves and Jack just kept on eating. But at the recycling centre, they're struggling with demand. "We just can't cope with all your cans. I'm sorry, but you're banned." Then the metal mountain tumbled, and with a clattering sound, cans fell on cars and scooters as they crashed down to the ground. They littered ponds and flattened bikes and bent a garden gate. It left the neighbour's garden in such an awful state. Crash! Jack kept eating beans on greens and tangerines, and beans with chocolate mousse, beans with peas and melted cheese, and plopped in orange juice. And when Jack reached the bottom of his little baked bean tin, he'd smile and say, "I love these beans," and wipe sauce off his chin. As it got dark, Jack noticed that things were not quite right. So staying awake, he made a plan and worked right through the night. He needed help and couldn't solve this problem on his own. So Jack called up his best friend Will on his tin can phone. Jack and Will then set to work, and using lots of cans, they cut, they drilled and welded them while following their plans. Finally, they both stepped back, and wiping their hands clean, Jack announced, "Let's call it the Amazing Bean Machine." Without delay, Will made a start and loaded in some tins. "Let's set this bean machine to work and make some metal things." So Jack pushed all the buttons while Will turned a few dials. Then Jack began to access the bean construction files. He tapped on the computer and the thing began to shake. It crunched the cans and noisily it soon began to make metal bikes and gates with spikes and metal parts for scooters, parts for cars and furniture, and bits for new computers. And when the bean machine got low and needed some more tins, Jack would shout, "Let's load some more," and Will would feed them in. The pile of cans was shrinking and soon would disappear. The bean machine kept munching cans as Jack gave a big "woo" cheer. With broken things replaced and swapped for sparkling new, Mum and Dad were happy again, and the neighbours too.